Pay your people better, May 5th. Here's my third attempt at lentils, even though I said I wasn't going to try. But at the same time, you know, lentils be cheap, and cheap food is kind of a necessity these days. So, I got my my brace on. Before I even test out the lentils, I need to show you some. Homemade ice cream. I had some earlier. I mean, like, it even has a nice, like, it's frozen up in there, but it melts really fast. I was afraid. Damn, that's good. Because I had taken a few liberties with the methodology. So first of all, I took a can. This is not going to be a can of evaporated milk, but let's just say this is a can of evaporated milk. It's not. It's sweetened condensed milk. But I took one of these, dumped the evaporated milk in, measured the weight, and then gave it an equal amount of heavy cream, weight-wise. Now, I know that's a lot of cream for ice cream. Like, most ice cream does not have that much in it. Because, like, most ice cream doesn't have that much butter fat. Or, well, fat, I guess. I don't know if butter fat is the right word. Even though butter fat comes from milk, so. Because, like, whole milk is 4%. Most ice creams, and I think the reason why, like, some items aren't called ice cream is because, like, ice cream has a specific minimum to the amount of fat content. And I think it's around 15%. I'm sitting at roughly 40%, which is, like, where I want my ice cream. So I was like, all right, whatever. Let's just see if this works. And I was not whipping that shit at all. It would not whip. Like, here's the bowl. And all it did was splatter. So then I was like, okay, let's see if I can actually make this stuff whip. And so I put it in the blender. And first I used the hand blender, the hand mixer, with the mixing attachments. No go. I just kind of stuck it in there for like 5 minutes and nothing. And so I was like, all right, let's take this to extreme measures. So I put it in the Ninja, and, you know, because of the way that it has it all set up, you can take out the blender and everything. And so I was like, all right, I will blend it up and see if it gets frothy, if it gets, you know, any remote nature of peaks. No peaks whatsoever. I probably blended that because, like, that thing goes hardcore. I was like 2 minutes on that thing, maybe a little longer. But I didn't want to go crazy on it because, like, you don't really, like, 2 minutes is too long, to be honest. Once you're at, like, 30 to 60, when you're in the 30 to 60 second range, you figured out whatever is going to happen. Like, if you're emulsifying, you're emulsifying. If you're not, you're not. And so because I was like, okay, this is definitely well mixed, but it's not peaking up at all. Let's stick it in the fridge for like an hour. And I did that, like, I stuck it in the fridge twice, and on the, you know, after, so it was like mix, you know, blend it, fridge, hour, blend it again, hour, fridge, blend it again. And then I was like, all right, I'm done for the night. I'll do it in the morning when I wake up. I woke up and, or no, I didn't go to bed as soon as I'd hoped. That's what it was. I was up for like another 2 hours. And so before I went to bed, I had, like, taken it out, and I'll bring it out again real quick. But you can see here at the top is this little stick. That is the top of the blender, because the motor is all encased. Where'd you go? Right here. Oh, shit. So the motor, let me fix all this real quick before we get further into this. so that you're stable and angled right. This is the motor. That's a beast of a little motherfucker. And then you put the tip in there, and so you can just transfer it from one thing to the next as needed. So you're not using either necessarily the same blender for everything. And you can take, and since you can take out the blender attachment, kind of like a food processor in a sense, you can then use it as storage because they have lids on them. So I was like, all right, we'll just stick it all in the fridge. But when I had taken it out right before bed, I was able to spin it, and I was like, oh, okay, so it hasn't firmed up at all. So I was like, so I just blended it one more time, and then went to bed. And then when I woke up, I did a blend on it because I couldn't move it. It was stiff, and I was like, all right, let's just try and see what happens if I just do one blend and then let it sit there for like an hour or so. So I did that, and when it popped back up, it was nice and frozen. And I was like, all right. So then I did the spoon, and I was like, okay, now we're like, this is ice cream. I finally made fucking ice cream. So now I know I just got to do it in that thing if I want to make ice cream. And also maybe not use as much fat. I'm going to test these lentils out. Ooh, nice and hot. Literally just finished cooking them in the Instant Pot. And they smell great because they were cooked with my homemade chicken stock. Well, it's basically a bean, kind of like split pea soup. So I'll just have to mix it in with some rice and some protein. I mean, I can do it without the protein thing, but I can't. Like, literally I can, but like objectively I can deal without a protein source like chicken, but subjectively speaking, no, I can't. This is another ramen, Cuba Libre ramen Coke and lime. I got my pita bread out. I pulled it out a while ago. Gonna wash my hands real quick. So I'm gonna have to wash them again soon after. Pulled it out so it could thaw a little bit, come to room temp, or at least get close to it. So then, because I've found, and it's pretty relatively old. Yeah, like I need to pull this out relatively soon, in half an hour or so. So maybe a little bit more, but it's pretty close to room temp right now. It's like it feels cool to the touch, but not cold, but like on the precipice of cold, if you will. Ooh, that'd be a great title of something. Maybe this video. On the precipice of cold. I also made up some hummus. This time I got quite liquidy because I just left all of the juice in it. And then I also threw in quite a bit of oil. So we'll see how much better or worse it is. It's all, I'm going to consume all of it. So it's not like it's a problem. And then I've got bread as well that I can make. I do need to go to the grocery store relatively soon because then when I'm done coming back from the grocery store, I got to get ready to go to comedy club. I don't know why I can't figure out what I'm calling it. It's a comedy club. Because I hadn't been there in a while, all because of physical therapy just causing massive physical exhaustion. And then I got to deal with all this shit when I come back because I got a lot of dishes I got to take care of. I finally ported my number over to Tag Mobile. Now all I got to do is cancel the T-Mobile. Probably do that tomorrow because I don't have anything else to do other than have a convo with my my therapist. And like I was on the phone, he said he was in the process of doing it, And he's like, if there's any other questions, click. I didn't hang up on him. He got hung up on because the transfer already happened in the middle of the call. And I told him, like, I am using that phone, so we'll see what happens. But so it happened. And yeah, so soon enough, I will still have to pay for this month's T-Mobile, but I lowered the data total to like save me $20. So I still have to pay the 70 something fucking dollars, and then once I'm done with that, it'll be over with, and I'll probably have to call them through an 800 number or some shit like that. Because then at that point, my internet, because I'll have 12-ish, I think it's like 12 to 15 gigs, I can't remember exactly how much, of internet for the phone, which is fine because I don't really need it for anywhere. The main issue is, the main reason I even use data, like, when I leave out of here, I got to switch, right? So I'll use it for when I'm getting in my rides and stuff. And that's a decent amount of data for the most. It's like, it's nothing significant. The real significant data usage is when I forget to turn the hotspot back on. And I'm using my phone and like watching, the Rest is Science podcast for 50 minutes. And then, I pull it down to check the time or something. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm still on my LTE? Crap. Fun fact, by the way, the Tag Mobile internet that I get, the 5G, is better than the fucking T-Mobile 5G that I was getting. Like, whenever I would use, like, after a while, I think about a month ago, I finally figured out that I cannot use 5G in here because my upload speeds are shit, and my download rates are wonky as hell, even though they're fast. Like, my ping online was terrible, especially when I was playing games. And when I switched over to 4G, everything was stable. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And that's one of the main reasons I decided to switch, too, is like, once I finally got the AT&T thing switched over, I could play all the games and shit that I want, download. I've probably already downloaded like a terabyte's worth of data on this motherfucker within the last month, just because like I switched over, so like I stopped playing Turtle Wow because it's done, and I went back literally like, was it last night or the night before, and the bug that we were dealing with when it came to the cartography achievement was fixed. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'm done then. Like, that was the last thing I was waiting for. So I took my character off to Booty Bay, had her sit down on one of the, on top of the bank building, basically, looking out over the bay where you can see the port, the pier for the dock, the boat. And, you can see the island with the Booty Bay statue, which doesn't have any treasure in it at the moment because you can't see that because Cataclysm hasn't happened. And then, like, just as the sun was shining and everything, I camped out and then deleted the game. Deleted the relative servers. Now I'm playing Project Ascension. Through the Project Ascension option, there was one where it was like you can do what's called like a free play classless version, where like you can run around as like you don't have a class. So whenever you normally start in World of Warcraft, you pick a race and you pick a class for that race, and some races have more classes than others. And I used to play a Warlock, and I really like Warlock because it has the ability to have an instant cast ability to range pull. So like one of the things about melee classes in general is that they just don't have the ability to have ranged pulling for the most part. There have been some things to help kind of mitigate that. But like when you have an enemy at distance, you don't want to necessarily run at that enemy. You maybe want to pull them to you and maybe have them go around a corner or something. And so having the ability to do that is fantastic. And then I learned very soon after this, like very quickly, that you start out with dual wield. So you can wield weapons in both hands. And dual wielding is almost always better save for certain circumstances. Because you just have more chances to hit. Now, the damage per second isn't as good, but it also depends on the class and a number of other factors. But the way that they've got the whole project set up is like they even have so like you can use any spell basically. So like you're a hero, you're not a rogue, you're not a warrior, you're not a warlock or a hunter or anything like that. You're you. And then you start choosing. Now the first thing I did was I chose the wrong realm where everything's random. And that I didn't like at all. I didn't like it was like, here, have these abilities, but they're always random. And I'm like, I don't want that. I want to pick my choices. And I didn't realize it was in the wrong realm, on the wrong server. So I went to the right server to start doing it. And I've just been sailing through this shit. I'm like already level 40. I've been playing like 4 days maybe. And it is just, and also I have it set to where it's scaled experience. So like, no matter where I go, I'm always getting experience. And the only thing that, it's like nothing is too low level, essentially. Save for very specific types of quests, nothing is too low level. But at the same time, I can't run through places safely, like, newbie zones and whatnot, because the creatures are of my level. Instead of, level 1 or 3 or 5, they're 35. But I'm okay with that because I can get in a level within like half an hour sometimes. And so like yesterday I got like 10 levels. But then also one of the things that they've done is they've incorporated a synergizing format. So it's like incorporating like a skill from, let's say, a rogue, right? And then let's say you get like a caster skill, like some, like, I don't know, like Fire Blast, which is an instant ability that casts fire. And then like there's little like mythical like runes or whatever they're called, I can't remember. And you can use them and like put them in the slot situation, and it'll help empower the combos. So it'll help create and empower combos, which is really cool. So like you can play as a paladin warlock, but like what I've got is because of all the choices that were available. So I started using what is known as an archetype that somebody else had already built. And it was the shadow magic archetype. And so they were only using shadow damage, right? And they had the priest, shadow word pain. And then they had the priest mind blast. Then they had the warlock corruption and the warlock shadow bolt. I'm not fond of casting times on spells. And so I wasn't really using that much because I was just beating the shit out of stuff. And I was like, I'm not using these spells, but my downtime, the amount of time you're not actually spending time doing stuff, is a little more significant than I like. So I just pulled like a priest healing spell that's instant, but it heals over time. And I was like, hey, this is useful. And then I was like, let's grab the other one, the one from the druids. So that way I can stack them just in case I'm getting a little overwhelmed. And that has been making my downtime massively better. And then there's like this ability that the priest has, which is part of the build. And I got rid of the build after like 20 levels, 25 levels, because I started realizing some things that I needed that the build had that I didn't need. Like the build had some stuff I didn't need, and there was stuff I needed that the build didn't have. And so it's like, since you can unlearn stuff, and it costs you what's known as ascension points, but you get like 100, 150 per quest turn in. And sometimes a quest is, hey, go talk to that guy. You get 100 fucking ascension points or whatever. So it's like, oh, okay. And you can look at your currency total in your character sheet. And I had like 20,000. I was like, oh, this isn't a problem. I can unlearn some stuff and then fiddle around with a few abilities here and there. And so I was like, okay, I want to level my way. I want to make it to where I can pull off what I'm trying to pull off. It's so I was like, okay, what happens if I get slightly overwhelmed? Well, okay, let's have that extra heal, right? And then I've also got a racial heal because I'm playing as a Draenei, and they're like goat people. They're like half person, half goat. And so they have this ability that you heal your target over time. So I'm like, okay, now I got 3 of those, all instant cast. Now the ratio one is like a minute and a half, something like that cooldown. So it takes a while for it to come back. So I've got these 3 instant heals, which is going to be, instant regens. I started learning at one point, I'm going to need to get some debuff removal. So, like, if you poison me, I want to get rid of that. If you disease me, I need to get rid of that. If you cast some weird magic spell on me, I need to get rid of it. If you cast a curse on me, I need to get rid of that. So I started finding the stuff that I know works. Some things weren't working the way that I was hoping, because, like, there's a paladin one that's really good. It's called Purify. And it gets rid of a disease, a poison, and a magic. But you can only use it in dungeons, which sucks. So I was like, well, let's just worry about that one later, and I'll get the Druid one or whatever it is. It's instant cast too. So, like, if I see them casting, and in the game it'll show, like, what they're casting. So if I see them casting a curse, for instance, I can just click the decurse button, and then once it lands on me, I hit the F1 button. The F1 targets me and casts it at that moment. So it doesn't actually technically target me. It just says your target for that spell is the F1 target, which is me. So that's really handy. But then I was like, okay, now I need to start getting some, like, area of effect spells, especially if I want to run, like, older dungeons. Now, I tried doing that at one point when it was in the scaled version. I was like, that's not working. I can't do that. I tried stealth. Stealth was supposed to be, in my opinion, really good, because I should have been able to just walk through shit. It sucks now. You've got to get all kinds of extra bonuses and shit for it to actually be as effective, because it was kind of a bit overpowered, especially for a level 1 ability. And because you can get spells and shit at level fucking 1 and just go ham. And so I was like, okay, this isn't working, so I'll just come back to the Dead Mines later and then just annihilate the place. I'm level 40. I have now the Paladin Consecrate ability, which is like an area of effect, damage over time ability. I have the Mage Arcane Explosion, which is just instant damage to everybody. And then I was like, maybe I want a little extra damage. And, Fire Strike is a mage spell, which is an area effect, but it has like a casting time, so it can slow you. So, like, it can prevent you from continuing to attack. Because that's the thing that I want to deal with. I want to be able to constantly attack all the time, no matter what. So when I'm casting spells, I want them to be instant. And so that's what I've kind of got going. I've got this instant cast build. And, I don't have all the available spells that are associated with that. I could probably get rid of one of my shadow pull spells and just kind of go full on area of effect. I don't know. I've also got, like, a spell called Purge, which removes a positive buff from an enemy. So if they have something that makes them more powerful, I can go, nope. And that also helps pull, too. Which, to be honest, maybe that's the direction I could go. I don't know. And that's the cool thing. I can change it all up. You get tokens at an early stage where you can reset your whole build if you need to. And so I started, and then I got this ability I've never fucking seen before in my life. It's a Paladin area of effect, and it's a massive area of effect, too. You slam the ground, basically like throwing Thor's Mjolnir on the ground, and it does damage to stuff in that area, which, again, big area, but then it also heals up to 5 targets, like 100 damage per tick at this point, because it's like a high level 30 spell, something like that, like level 36. And I was like, this is fucking fire. So I've got hammer time. I've got a meteor that I can drop onto the fucking battlefield. It does like 900 plus damage. I think at one point I saw it did like 1100, which is phenomenal. And then it lands and then burns the area. So I've got, if I time it just right, I can cast the meteor spell, right? Like, let's say before I enter into battle, I'm like, toss on a heal, run into battle, throw the meteor down, and once I, give it like maybe half a second, because it's not immediate, then throw the paladin hammer down. If I time it, and I haven't done it yet, if I time it right, kablamo! It's like the hammer landed and just started blowing everything up. And then you can like area effect with the consecrate and with the arcane spell. The main issue I'm having is my general survivability. I do take quite a lot of damage. So I'm trying to figure out how best to mitigate that. I've got some ideas, but I don't know yet. But it's fun to fiddle with. Like, it's taking the game that I have enjoyed for 9 months, and then, easily 2 years prior, and like changing it up in a way that I've never been able to play before. Like, I appreciate the random mode. Like, I get it, because that's very akin to like old school Dota, where they made it at one point where it's like, okay, you can pick your hero, but all your skills are random. Like, at one point it was, you can't pick your hero, it's just random hero, but the skills are always the same for that hero. And then somebody said, what if we do it the other way around? What if we make it to where you pick your hero, but then your skills are random? And that created some issues, so like they had to rework them, which was cool, because then they were like, hey, these things don't work the way they used to. We have to re-script the game, which is a thing that you can fortunately do in Warcraft 3. It's like, you can literally program while in the game certain things to happen a certain way, but you gotta know what you're doing. I don't fucking know how to do that. Like, the Warcraft 3 editor is the most complex map editor I can use, and I can barely use it. Like, the triggering system and everything is nothing like what StarCraft was, and the StarCraft 2 editor, I never fucked with that thing. Like, the moment I went in, and I just tried to look at a map, and I was like, oh, I am fully overwhelmed. I am not touching this ever again. It's not happening. And then, it doesn't matter now, because they're not making any more real-time strategy games that people are going to care about, because Blizzard sucks nowadays. Which is another reason why I'm playing this, because I'm like, I'm not going to fucking pay Blizzard and I'm not going to make another account with them and, them be assholes and stuff. And so, yeah, it's like, it's really fun just like figuring out how best to just play around with stuff. And it makes it very interesting. I will be honest. It's very interesting. I've got like mage spells, warlock spells, shaman spells, druid spells, paladin spells. I got the hunter abilities where I can like run faster and shit, feign death. And so I'm like a 6-man class all rolled into one. Because there's a lot of abilities from some classes that just really aren't that necessary. Like, when I was playing my warlock on the Turtle WoW servers, I think I gotta go after this, because I'm running along into the tooth. The thing about it is like, I played what's known as Affliction, which was the damage over time guy. I didn't really care about the destruction line of spells, which is like cast fire spells and shadow bolts and stuff like that. And I liked that method of playing over the other versions. It's like all these other spells are superfluous. So like, if I just took the general like class that I was playing and then fiddled with it, which I could do if I wanted. Like, in this game, I could make the warlock that I had and then some. I could change some things up and make it a little bit more interesting. And because this game goes up to level 70, like, just not because they're getting it ready for Wrath of the Lich King. Supposedly that was going to happen in 2025, and it still hasn't happened. But like, you can even see some of the stuff like the Death Knight abilities, because Death Knight is a thing. It's like it's an ancillary class that you could use, I think, later on. So like, people could turn into a Death Knight if they wanted to, but they were still like a warlock or whatever. It just opened up different things, but then it closed off other things in the process. So like, if you were continuing on to be a warlock, you could be an even more powerful warlock. But if you were a level 70 warlock and then you switched over to Death Knight for 10 levels, you couldn't be as powerful of a warlock, but you could be a multi-classed version. And, multi-classes always have their strengths and weaknesses, so. But yeah, just being able to fiddle with it and everything is great. I love it. It's awesome. So. I'm trying to do some more singing stuff. I was doing it earlier. When I did the House of Hope intro like I did the other day, I realized that, like, when I say lives, all mortal lives expire, the thing about it is, like, I have to kind of raise the back of my palate, which is a little weird for me to do for the I sound, the long I, because that's not normal for me. That's more of a close your throat and create the I sound, not open your throat and open your mouth and then try to say that letter. So I got to figure out how to work that. And I was doing a little bit of practice with that. I was screaming into the into a towel because I was like, I don't want to ruin the ambiance of my apartment in Skid Row. So, all right, I'm going to be finished with this. I got to go to the store, get some groceries. Have fun.